right, with that, let's also talk about what has been going on in the primaries. Eric, we've talked about the American economy. Let's tell you what has been going on in the Michigan primaries and, of course, all the results that came along with it. The Democratic Party's internal battle is heading for a photo finish. A race that many expected to be a clear ideological verdict has now turned into a nail-biter. Senate primary race for the key battleground state of Michigan is too close to call. It is now seen as a test of whether the Democratic Party's future lies with its progressive or moderate wing.
And this is where it gets interesting. With 96% of the vote counted, progressive candidate Abdul El-Sayed holds a narrow lead over moderate Congresswoman Haley Stevens in Michigan's high-stakes U.S. Senate primary. The race is being closely watched across the United States because it is seen as a referendum on the Democratic Party's ideological direction. For months, many progressives believed El-Sayed would secure a comfortable victory. Instead, the contest has become far tighter than expected.
In fact, El-Sayed is leading against Haley Stevens by just under 4,000 votes. Remember, this margin has continued to shrink as more ballots are processed, falling from a lead of around 19,400 votes earlier in the day. The final outcome now hinges on the remaining ballots from the WION County, which is home to Detroit and Michigan's largest voting base. The county has a reputation for slow vote count that could keep the race unresolved.
President Donald Trump has entered the discourse with a sharp swipe on the entire counting process. He called WION County the most corrupt voting area in the U.S. He says it witnesses more voting than their number of registered voters. He also referred to one Democratic candidate as a communist and other as radical left. Trump has predicted that later candidate has a real shot. However, he did not mention who that was.
So despite the tight contest, both candidates have called for party unity. Addressing the supporters, Haley Stevens said that she was feeling good about the race, but warned that it could be a long night before a winner emerges. Abdul El-Sayed also acknowledged the uncertainty, saying that he wished that he could declare victory, but stressed on the need to wait for every vote to be counted. Now remember, whoever emerges as the Democratic candidate will take on Republican nominee Rogers in what is expected to be one of the most competitive Senate races of the midterm elections.
But with thousands of ballots still to be counted in WION County, the Democratic nomination remains undecided. Well, Shreya, it has been an interesting turnaround in the midterm elections in Michigan. Let's just listen in to our correspondent, Susan Teherani. She has sent us this report from New York.
Michigan's primary is shaping up as one of the clearest indicators yet of where both major parties are heading into the 2026 midterms. On the Democratic side, the closely fought Senate primary has exposed the deep divide between the party's progressive wing and the more moderate establishment, with the outcome likely to influence campaigning strategies well beyond this battleground state. On the Republican side, Donald Trump's influence remains a powerful force, with his endorsements continuing to carry significant weight. The focus now shifts to November, where Michigan's open Senate seat is expected to become one of the most expensive and closely watched races in the country, with control of the U.S. Senate potentially hanging in the balance. Susan Teherani reporting from New York for WION World is One.